We're all used to seeing creatures, monsters, demons, and cyborgs on the big screen, but do you know how these amazing effects and makeups were created? Here we'll tell you about what it took to achieve some of the most amazing transformations throughout movie history. From the early days of film to some more current works of brilliance, these are most unbelievable movie makeup transformations. 12. Phantom of the Opera. One of the most fantastic actors of the silent era, Lon Chaney, was known for doing his own movie makeup. He saw it as a portal through which he could reveal his characters' inner lives. He once said, "As a man's face reveals much that is in his mind and heart, I attempt to show this by the makeup I use." To play the disfigured and tortured character that eventually grabs onto an obsession with a young opera singer, Chaney used collodion, a thick sticky liquid, and cotton on his cheeks to make them look scarred. He also attached a piece of fish skin, a super thin, transparent material used in special effects makeup, and spirit gum to change his nose. He then ran a wire from underneath his bald cap to the tip of his nose to accentuate the deformity, which often left him with nosebleeds. Finally, he put on dark eyeliner to make his eyes look hollow. 11. Frankenstein. Boris Karloff played the iconic role of the monster in Frankenstein. But did you know that another actor was offered the part first? The actor who had portrayed the monster on stage, Bela Lugosi, turned down the part thinking the makeup would be too involved. Karloff took the part and was transformed by Jack Pierce, the makeup director, who used various techniques that had never before been seen. Spirit gum, cotton, and a rubber skull cap were used to give the monster his famous flattened head. He also tinted Karloff green to provide him with a dull, dead, grayish look when it translated to the black and white film they shot on. It looks like Lugosi missed out on the role of a lifetime. 10. Creature from the Black Lagoon. The creature in this movie was basically the water version of Bigfoot, and was one of the most striking creatures in Hollywood in its time. The monster seems grafted together from a combination of physical attributes of eels, frogs, and lizards onto a human-like shape. Designer Millicent Patrick and makeup artists Chris Mueller and Bud Westmore were responsible for the terrifying suit worn by actor Ben Chapman. In the dry land scenes, the suit was a one-piece latex body stocking, as Chapman recalled in an interview in 2000. He remembers the makeup artists affixing various pieces of foam rubber to the suit over the course of a few hours every time he wore it. The suit had no ventilation, thus his skin was unable to breathe. When they shot on the back lot, it wasn't a problem, as Chapman would spend the day in a pool. But when they shot on the soundstage, someone would have to blast him with a hose until his body temperature returned to normal. Sounds like straight-up torture. 9. Hellboy. Guillermo del Toro is a director known for employing makeup as a critical ingredient in his movies, and Ron Perlman's character in this movie is no exception. The costume and makeup for the film was a complete transformation, as Perlman wore a full bodysuit and had his entire face and head changed. His bodysuit gave the actor extra bulk, he wore a tail, and all of his exposed skin was painted red. He wore prosthetics on his head and face, and had his face fully painted red as well. The artist behind the transformation was Jake Garber, a Hollywood makeup artist who had previously worked on many other films, which helped him come up with the look Perlman would have. The two would show up 4 hours early to the set just to get the actor finished in time for shooting. CGI was used to enhance the movements and looks, but it was only employed to accent the makeup and work of Perlman instead of creating it all entirely digitally. This film is an excellent representation of how old-school makeup and costume design is still employed in the technologically advanced films of today. 8. Planet of the Apes. John Chambers did the makeup for the Planet of the Apes movie and became a highly sought-after makeup artist in the industry. But did you know before he did that, he used to make prosthetics for disfigured patients in a military hospital? He gave that up because it was too tragic and ended up becoming the first person ever to win an Oscar for makeup. Chambers made molds of every actor playing a Samian and used those to make foam masks, which he glued to the faces of the actors with spirit gum. The masks were the base for him to apply makeup and latex prosthetics on. He glued on ape-like ears, noses, and foreheads, and then added fake fur and teeth. Apparently, the hardest problem he faced and conquered was to make it possible for the actors to speak without sounding muffled or distant. He did well, and his makeup transformations go down in history as some of the best of his time. 7. The Exorcist. Dick Smith transformed Dustin Hoffman in Little Big Man. He created a recipe for fake blood for the movie Midnight Cowboy that is still used today. He designed new specialized dentures for Marlon Brando to give him his jowly appearance in The Godfather. And he transformed a cute little girl into a messed up, nasty, demonic puking wraith in The Exorcist. This was the pinnacle of his excellence and the perfect example of his true talent, and earned him a reputation as a fantastic Hollywood makeup artist. He created a fiberglass recreation of Linda Blair's head that could spin around 360 degrees for the scene in which her head rotates. Still used today, his technique of creating actors' masks using several layers molded onto their faces was groundbreaking and new in his time. His work lives on today as a strong foundation for movie makeup transformations. 6. Dawn of the Dead. Tom Savini, the makeup artist for Dawn of the Dead, developed a knowledge of various wounds and human anatomy during his time as a combat photographer in Vietnam. He created the disgusting, decaying, decrepit zombies in George Romero's famed movies, and was also allowed to come up with the way in which they would perish again. He created all of his makeup effects for less than $15,000, which was an insanely low amount of money because that included the materials and his assistant's wage. For the movie, he painted a straw silver to make the scene where a screwdriver is driven through the zombie's ear work. He then went on to work on Friday the 13th, Parts 1 and 4. 5. American Werewolf in London. This movie revolutionized film and fascinated audiences as they got to see a brutal, agonizing transformation from man to werewolf up close. His hand changed into massive paws, his skin grew fur, his torso shifted to accept the posture of a four-legged, horizontal walking wolf. People were fascinated by the transformation, and it was done amazingly, before CGI and the modern movie magic techniques of today. Rick Baker, who once worked under Dick Smith as his assistant, was responsible for the task of transforming star David Naughton into a werewolf. He designed not only the look of the werewolf, but also several transitional makeup jobs. Those, paired with a little editing, helped to make it look as though Naughton were really morphing into the creature. He went on to win an Oscar for his makeup and hair work in the film. 4. Lord of the Rings. Of course, these films require a ton of makeup and costume work. Have you seen them? Director Peter Jackson employed massive teams to handle the workload of costumes and makeup needed on these films. The teams were also often mobile, considering a lot of the filming was done on scene, and traveling was required to keep up with the needs of production. For the first film, 1,800 individual hobbit feet were created, as many actors had to wear them, and they wore through very quickly. 1,000 suits of armor were also built just to supply actors playing various characters with costumes for the movie. Not to mention the orcs that appeared in the film, the main ones at least, took hours to get into costume and for makeup artists to transform them. Although CGI was heavily used, and computers took care of a lot of effects throughout the film, without the makeup and costume departments, the films wouldn't have come out as amazing as they did. 3. The Fly. Stefan Dupuis and Chris Wallace, Hollywood makeup directors, worked to transform Jeff Goldblum's character, Dr. Seth Brundle, in The Fly. The film was a remake of a 1950 horror sci-fi film and was directed by David Cronenberg. Goldblum was transformed over a period of 5 hours a day into a disgusting human-insect hybrid. To create the nasty flies, misshapen features, boils, and extremely bumpy body, Goldblum had lots and lots of latex applied to his own body. Some of the effects used to create the fly's stomach-churning affectations were incredibly simple and cheap. In fact, the goo that it pukes up was made from raw milk, honey, and eggs. Sounds like a painstaking process, but the look was worth it. Totally worth it. 2. Terminator 2: Judgment Day. It almost seems unfathomable that this film was made decades ago, because the makeup effects used in this look pretty state-of-the-art even today. The shape-shifting Terminator android and the brutal havoc he wreaked almost look as if they were made on a computer and through CGI, don't they? Stan Winston, the film's makeup artist and legend in Hollywood, created much of the movie's effects using prosthetics, models, and makeup. The scene in which the T-1000 had its head split apart was created using a replica of actor Robert Patrick's head that was made of foam rubber with a fiberglass core. A hinge was put in that split apart at the pulling of a pin. Another puppet head was made that seemed to start to form back together using a pulley mechanism, and the effect was completed with some computer magic. Stan Winston's work in the Terminator films remains some of the more fantastic work done by makeup artists to date. Question: we've seen a lot of amazing transformations so far, and we still have one more coming at you. But first, we have a question for you. What are some movies you've seen that have had makeup and costumes that blew you away? Let us know down in the comments below. We'd love to hear what excellent effects you've enjoyed. 1. The Wizard of Oz. While by today's standards, the makeup and costumes in this old movie don't seem very fantastic, for the time, they were pretty sophisticated. The studio created an assembly line system to get the makeup of all the characters that it needed done, considering there were so many of them. The advanced planning and forward thinking would become a standard for films in the future, as productions grew more extensive and more complex. Some of the makeup and costumes were so realistic for the times that they began to scare people who weren't part of the production. The team even went so far as making some of the actors eat lunch in their trailers to avoid frightening more of the unknowing. One problem they had, though, was the actor who was supposed to play the Tin Man, Buddy Ebsen, was allergic to his makeup and had to be hospitalized. He was replaced by Jack Haley, who could tolerate the makeup, and the show moved on. If you enjoyed the insight you gleaned from this video, why not do us a favor and click the like button below. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our channel by clicking the button below or our logo right here on this screen. Enjoy this next video we picked out just for you, and have a fantastic rest of your day.